Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment. Bring on these Facebook folks and the Instagram. So, knock on wood that we have no problems with our Facebook communities today. Hang tight, guys. I cannot rest assured until I am, in fact, assured. And there we go. There's YouTube. Come on, baby. There's Facebook. All right. Welcome in, everybody. This is, of course, the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, Bo Nix, is this an NFL takeover? I mean, I'm kidding a little bit. We have to factor in all the little caveats of it was the Atlanta Falcons defense and all that. But dude, we gotta catalog this. Rookie of the month, rookie of the week, player of the week. This dude's rolling, Zack.
Yeah, there's one more. He also won the Diet Pepsi Zero Sugar, Air Player of the Week, whatever it is. So a clean sweep for Bo Nix this week, Chad. Of the awards that count, he won the Triple Crown. He had a dominant performance, literally one of the best in franchise history. And it's just funny. It's kind of a segue, but when national analysts rate him, give him a B- for a 4-touchdown game where he's stacking all these awards, I think it's pretty comical.
Definitely. Mr. Producer is telling me check my mic, and he's right. He's right. Hang tight, guys. 1 second. Just making sure. This little cable on this mic, it's a great web mic, USB, but it likes to clicked over. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, dude, it's feeling good. I haven't felt like this about a quarterback in Denver since the Payton Manning days, and that was a long-ass time ago. Like the Papa Bear jumping in, David McElrath. Great to see you tonight, brother. He says, congratulations, Bo Nix. Good evening, Broncos country. Chad, Zack, and Deacon Scott. Hashtag God bless the USA. 10-7 plus. Let's go, Bo. MHH for life. Buckham ×3. Denver Broncos for life. Zack, he's feeling it.
So am I. I mean, 12-5 might be a little homerific to predict for Denver, but Chad, the way they're playing with the offense coming around, Bo Nix admitted the game is starting to slow down for him. The defense is continuing to play at a high level. Like, what is the reason, if they beat the teams they're supposed to beat, including Sunday in Vegas, that they can't go 10-7, like David's been predicting for months now?
True. And even Ronk reminding us the FedEx Air and Ground player of the week. I mean, like you said, dude, it's the whole enchilada. Ronk checking in on Facebook. Good evening, Chad and Zack on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. I love it. And Bo and company are going to need all of the good juju, all of that momentum, because, Zack, even though it's the lowly Raiders, we're going to get into the head-to-head here in a little bit, but even though it's a 2-win Raiders opponent, the Broncos, they snapped that streak. Thank you, Bo Nix. Of the what was it, 8-game losing streak to the Raiders. They snapped that in week 5, but they still have yet to win at Allegiant Stadium. So David Youngkin says, I know I'm jumping the gun, but does George Payton and Sean Payton keep a lot of the offense together this offseason, or do they clean house? Zack, what do you think as far as the skill position guys? There's some question marks on the O-line relative to Garrett Bolles.
I don't think they have enough talent on offense to do a clean house. I think they're going to add for sure, David. At least I hope so, that the shopping list for Denver revolves around Bo Nix this offseason. Receivers, tight ends, running backs, blockers, you name it. So I think they're going to re-sign the key players that have contributed to this run with Bo Nix, but they have to add legitimate elite outside talent in 2025.
I'm telling you right now, MHH has started a long time ago. The clarion call to get Garrett Bolles figured out. If you do that, this O-line is growing with Luke Wattenberg back at center. They have their starting 5. Ben Powers, he's a little banged up, but he was limited today in practice. I'm hoping he'll be a full go tomorrow, but still, it's a unit that's gelling around a young quarterback, specifically the offensive line. And Garrett Bolles, he might be the left tackle, but as the left tackle and the blindside protector, Zack, he is, in my opinion, a crucial linchpin. As kind of inconvenient as that is, kind of the Garrett Bolles legend in Denver, Zack, being what it is, and then we'll grab Sam.
Yeah, if Bo Nix and Sean Payton sit down after the season and have a legitimate conversation, and Bo Nix genuinely says, I want Garrett Bolles back, if Sean Payton genuinely says, I want Garrett Bolles back, I'm open to it, Chad. I know we kind of disagree on this topic a little bit. I wouldn't mind giving him an extension, but I just don't want to break the bank for 30 whatever year old Garrett Bolles. That's all.
Sam Bam, thank you, bro. Generous super chat jumping in very early. Says, evening, guys. For the first time in a long time, I feel we can say we truly have a franchise QB with a legitimate head coach. Playoffs, here we come. Go Broncos. Indeed, I feel the same way. I mean, there's that. You've got the angel and the devil on the shoulder, right? And the angel's telling me all those same things, Sam. The devil's going, well, hey, hey, last year you fought your way back into things at 6-5 before it all fell apart. I think it's different this year, Zach. If you as well feel it's different, why?
I feel because Bo Nix is not regressing, Chad. I feel like because we're not getting those tease performances, for lack of a better word, putting it PG. Like Drew Lock showed flashes, but it wasn't consistent. Trevor Siemian even showed flashes, but it wasn't consistent. I'm just thinking of quarterbacks the Broncos have drafted. Brock Osweiler showed flashes, but it wasn't consistent. It just feels different, not only because Bo Nix is consistent, but because for the first time since Gary Kubiak, they have a legitimate coach to pair with them and help him grow.
The one thing, too, that informs me, Zach, that this is a different rodeo is, if you look at the road the Broncos had to hoe last year upon hitting 6-5, which, again, hitting 6-5 last year took miracles, right? It took the 5-game winning streak. It took that insane historic takeaway streak the defense went on. But then if you look at the final stretch last year, I mean, it was basically murderer's row after murderer's row, to an extent anyway. And in one game in particular, the Broncos just completely, crapping the bed, specifically the New England game. But this time around, it's a much easier road. You've got the Raiders, you've got the Browns, then you've got a bye week. And coming out of that, Chargers, Bengals, I might have the order wrong here at the end, but Chargers, Bengals, or it might be Bengals, Chargers, and then a Chiefs squad in the season finale, likely to be resting its starters, Zach. I like the way that's shaping up. And I just feel like finally Sean Payton, who's saying, oh, there's something different about this squad. This is a different thing. I actually believe that. I buy into that.
Yeah, I mean, they blew the Houston game last season. They got blown out in Detroit. They had chances late in the year, but again, because the quarterbacking was inconsistent, it always felt fluky, that winning streak, like it was a product of luck rather than skill. This time, with what the Broncos are putting together, I legitimately feel like it's a talent-based success.
Definitely. We got a couple other super chats and comments to get to. Maybe after Elias, we'll handle some matters of business. But Elias checking in, brother. So good to see you. Thank you for the super. He says, we got the best QB in the draft, period. Let's destroy the Raiders Sunday. Amen to both. I think, honestly, again, you can pick nits on, he's not the talent that Jaden Daniels is, or let's pump the brakes on, trying to say he's better than Caleb, but he was, at the very least, fight me on this one, the best quarterback in the draft for Sean Payton.
And he's the best rookie quarterback in the NFL right now. You could talk about Jaden Daniels, but he kind of plateaued in Washington a little bit, whereas Bo Nix have those stiff tests off the bat, and then he's gotten better as the season's gone along. He looks like sometimes a veteran quarterback. It looks like he's put it all together, whereas when you watch Drake May, when you watch Jaden Daniels, when you watch some of the other rookie quarterbacks, the game is still going very fast for them.
Guys, got to remind you, connect with us on X, on Twitter, at Mile High Huddle. My partner here, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL. Myself, at Chad and Jensen. And those of you listening after the fact on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please drop us that 5-star review. Helps us out tremendously. And look, the Broncos, Zach, I haven't looked at the odds this week. They might not exactly be perceived as underdogs going into Allegiant Stadium. But speaking of underdog fantasy, that is the place to play if you are a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower. Makes it easy. On 2 or more player stats, and you could wind up winning 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
Yeah, that's right. With their champs game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have a higher or lower than 220.5 passing yards this Sunday against Vegas? Every dog deserves a second chance. And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose, Chad.
That's right. So download the Underdog Fantasy app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower with Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado. For some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text Hope NY.
All right, back to the conversation we have here. Phil McLaughlin checking in down in Tucson. Love you, brother. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. It scares me how much attention Bo is getting. After the last 7 or 8 years of being hopeful and being getting let down, probably the pessimist in me, hashtag Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. I don't know that it scares me. It's just it's somewhat uncanny. Like, it's almost like we have to pinch ourselves and go, really, could this be happening to Broncos country? It's been a many moons since we had a league relevant quarterback, and as you're seeing, Broncos this deep into the season were plus 500, and it takes having a relevant quarterback, Zach, to be relevant in the NFL in November and December.
I agree with you. I don't think I'm scared, and I understand the PTSD. But Phil, let me ask you: do you want Bo Nix to be an elite franchise quarterback for the next 10 years? Obviously, yes. And if he's going to be, well, people are going to talk about him. They're going to have the predictions. They're going to have the expectations and the hope. It comes along with it. At some point, we can't be scared because he's on his tricycle. We got to take the training wheels off, Chad, and let him just go on his own.
And the cool thing is, the hotter it gets, he seems to, the better he gets. He not just situational football when the chips are down. I mean, he showed you what he can do multiple times in those situations this season, but especially in that Chiefs game. But even just the scrutiny and the expectations rising. I mean, you win Offensive Rookie of the Month for October. And what does he do in consecutive games? He follows that up with back-to-back Rookie of the Week plus Player of the Week in the AFC. So this is not a kid that, either Zach rests on his laurels or lets things get to his head. He's played a lot of football and he's been scrutinized at a very high level, maybe not this high of a level, but it's coming. And yeah, proud Xenia, down with the faders. Hope we keep Bolles, Broncos for life. Amen to that, my friend. George Fox, in my opinion, Bo is just now being given the whole playbook. Last week is where we have changed. He was able to handle it all. Broncos for life, MHH for life. I mean, we've seen the deep throws. We've seen him taking what the defense gives him, specifically last week against Atlanta. I mean, you even have outlets, Zach. You tweeted about this. I ended up writing about it, but like CBS Sports trying to, in that performance, I mean, 4 touchdowns, north of 300 yards, and over 80% completion. That's an A+. To be the only rookie quarterback in NFL history to have that stat line in a start, that's an automatic A+, and yet CBS Sports, Trapasso giving him a B- and docking his grade seemingly anyway, Zach, based on his rationale and what he wrote, because 2 of those touchdowns were screens. It's like, would we be caveating and disqualifying those touchdowns if it was Caleb, if it was Jaden, if it was Drake May? The answer to that is obviously no. When it's Bo Nix, you got to find the hole in the boat.
he gave Caleb Williams an A- for last Sunday's performance. And he even put in there, although he didn't win the game, ... Like, if you watch Caleb Williams, like, it was his defense once again. Bo Nix is right now the much better, much more polished, much more advanced quarterback. And he's making throws and making reads and doing things cerebrally, Chad, that Caleb Williams can only dream of. If you watch Bo Nix and not just went by the narratives or box score watching, it was like playing Madden. It was on all Madden the setting the first couple weeks. And last week, it like got turned down to rookie mode, Chad. He's feeling it. He's in his zone, and more people should be aware of that. But they're not. Their bias is too strong.
The game is definitely slowing down. And just like we used to say, but even more so now, let them hate. Let them hate, baby. It's like I joked. I wrote it out a few times because it's obviously trying to torpedo his Rookie of the Year odds. And I'm like, okay. And I wrote it out a few times in the story. I'm like, maybe a certain someone, wink, wink, nod, nod, had money on Jaden Daniels for ORoW. And then I deleted it. I put it back in. Then I deleted it. Ultimately chose to keep it out. But it's like, what other explanation do you have to not give Bo Nix a straight A+ for that effort? David Youngkin, it's not turnovers that's winning the games. The offense is helping out. Yes, it's the defense did, let's face it, the first quarter of the season, Zach, it did the heavy lifting. But Bo Nix and company, as the game has slowed, like we were just talking about, and the players, to quote Sean Payton, have been painting a better picture around Bo, you're starting to see them carry their fair share and then some.
It's a good point, David, because we talked about earlier what makes me believe, what makes you believe that it's different this time around compared to the last decade. Well, in the last decade, when the Broncos did have a modicum of success, it was because the defense was carrying the offense. The offense was not pulling its proper weight. It was to the point where the locker room was like going through a mutiny, Chad, where Aqib Talib says that John Elway doesn't have any dogs in there. That's how bad it got. So now that the offense, they're winning because of them and not in spite of them, that's the most encouraging thing, or one of them.
Absolutely. And it's trending in the direction that we want it to. I'm going to grab this one real quick too from Proud Zennial because we gave him a little bit short shrift there. He says, we put so much into Garrett Bolles. He deserves to feel the taste of victory with Denver. Just needs to be realistic and sign a team-friendly contract. With love from Gilbert, Queen Creek, Arizona. Awesome, bro. That's cool. Garrett Bolles, to keep it within reason, Zach, I think he's next year will be his age 33 season. So you do have to factor that in. Yeah, he's 32 now. He'll be turning 33 in May. So that does have to be factored in. But here's the thing. He's a young 32 years old. And even if he wasn't, which again, he is, relative to the amount of tread left on his tires, in the NFL, man, Whitworth proved left tackles, specifically tackles on the edge, they can play deep into their 30s. So I don't think for the Broncos, Zach, it's so much about paying Bolles or about his age. I think it's just about it making sense relative to their other salary cap and roster, we'll say, priorities in 2025 and 2026.
Yeah, Jason Peters played until his late 30s, I'm pretty sure. Tyron Smith is starting for the Jets at 40 years old. So Chad's right. There's longevity in that position, but this is probably his last chance to really cash out with a market commensurate contract. And I just don't know how realistic it is, Zennial, that Garrett Bolles is going to take less money to stay with an organization, like you said, he's never had success with. And if you think deserving counts, well, tell that to Justin Simmons.
True. But thank you, Zennial. Appreciate you. Tonight, guys, of course, we're going to be getting around to here shortly our head-to-head. We're going to be examining where the Broncos and Raiders, how they match up in Week 12. But first, we got to tip our cap to Marcus Lewis Henna across the pond, checking in on Facebook. Great to see you, my friend. He says, hey, guys, long time absent, but I'm here. I've been following, but I've been unwell. Sorry to hear that, bro. Sorry to hear that. He says, love what the Broncos are doing. Love to you all there and Broncos everywhere. God bless. Broncos for life. MHH for life. Go, Bo.
God bless
well,
you,
bro, hopefully this is a sign that you have been unwell, but you're doing better. That's what we're hoping. So thoughts and prayers up for you, my dog. Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus, God bless you. Appreciate you. Anything we can do to help you out, please let us know. Thank you again.
And I agree. Well, let me check with Mr. I see. From Mr. Producer, the top 6 tackles, according to Pro Football Focus, 3 of the top 6 are 33 years old or older. So just food for thought on that front. Thank you, Scott. Where to go? There was one I was going to grab here from Chase. I agree. Chase says, can't be understated how this team is different than ones in the past. There's an adult in the room coaching. And not only that, thank you, Chase. Not only that, Zach, but this is just a different quarterback. Like Russ, right now, he's whistling past the graveyard. I wish him the best in Pittsburgh, but he's definitely whistling past the graveyard. By the time you got to last year, you had, and Sean Payton got his hands on him, you had not only 10 years, half of which was really dominant in Seattle, but the back half of that, him just getting destroyed, falling worse and worse into bad habits. Then he comes to Denver, and you want to talk about someone resting on laurels. When you get a $250 million extension, Zach, and you haven't even taken a regular season snap for that team, it's easy to kind of, I don't know, buy into your own headlines, mail it in, so to speak. And that's what happened. You had a very damaged and flawed Russ down the stretch. I mean, he wasn't throwing a lot of picks, but man, it was those scramble yards getting hit from behind and out comes the ball. And Sean Payton's like, who's got the Tums? Hit me. You know, this is Bo Nix. He's not damaged. He's a clean slate, and he is vibing with this head coach and this scheme, Zach. So I do feel that aspect is crucially different. That's a big deal. And then also the young defense, Zach, we'll call it, the newfangled Orange Crush, no-name defense, whatever you want to call it. They showed that they were legit from quarter 2 of last season on, and they've only doubled down on that this season without any of those. I mean, I guess you could say Baltimore, Zach, was a little bit of a step back, but nothing on the tectonic scale of, say, Miami or even Detroit.
I was going to say, when you talk about Russ and the things that went wrong, the sack that he, ran into against the Patriots last season will forever be seared into my brain. And you don't see that from Bo Nix. You see the offense remaining on schedule and Nix running Payton's offense as it should. That's what I was saying earlier, Chad. Even the scant times when the offense had success in the last 10 years, who was the head coach? It was either Vic Fangio, a rookie. It was Vance Joseph, a rookie. It was no success under Nathaniel Hackett, but you get my point here. The Broncos, that's why you give up the draft picks. That's why you give up the big money for an experienced adult in the room, like the comment said.
So real quick, we have the Duchess checking in. Michaela Parker, love you. She says, what are the chances of Bo winning Rookie of the Year? So here's what the most recent odds coming out of week 11, all right, say. Still Jaden Daniels, and then I'm going to serve it to you, Zach, for her answer. Yep. But Jaden Daniels still is the favorite at minus 400 odds. This is according to DraftKings. Bo Nix is at number 2, plus 300. Then you have in 25 plus 2,500 Drake May, plus 3,000 Brock Bowers, plus 4,000 Caleb Williams, and then 3 other names listed. But that's what the margin is right now. Jaden Daniels at minus 400 odds, Bo Nix plus 300. But one has all the momentum and an easier schedule. Jaden Daniels kind of plateauing, Zach.
I think it's going to come down to how the team does. If the Broncos make the playoffs and they go 10, 11 wins, Bo Nix has a much better chance. But if Jaden Daniels finishes with a better record, he already has the name recognition. He has more of the spotlight being the number 2 overall pick. It's just going to be how the team ends. I promise you, though, Michaela, if the Broncos would have beaten Kansas City, Bo would be the far and away favorite right now for ORoW.
Plus, it's just one of those situations, too, because of some of the things we've long lamented and commiserated about here on this podcast. And that is just the overall kind of, the Broncos basically have to do twice as well to be on equal footing. And that, I think, Zach, unfortunately, is going to hold true, generally speaking. But if you look at the Commanders' remaining schedule, so this week they play the Cowboys at home, then they play the Titans. Then they go on the road to a rejuvenated Saints team. Then they got to play the Eagles. Then they got to play a Falcons team in week 17 that's going to be pushing for playoff seeding. And then home again, then on the road to close out the season at Dallas. So their schedule, I would argue, Zach, is a little bit stiffer than the Broncos, although there's an argument to be made that it's about 6s. But again, I err on the side of Bo Nix's momentum more so right now, and just clicking and vibing with Sean Payton, and the guys finally starting to understand their roles in this offense. I mean, the skill players, we're actually seeing guys take a screen and do something with it. We celebrate that here in Denver because it's been a long time since we've seen that happen, Zach.
Yeah, to me, that's a pretty easy schedule when you have Dallas twice still left to go, Chad. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a tight neck-and-neck race, but we can't worry about Offensive Rookie of the Year. Bo Nix isn't, Chad. He said it's all cool winning these awards, but he just wants team success. He wants to go to the playoffs. If the Broncos make the wild card, but Jaden Daniels wins ORoW, it would be a little bittersweet, but we'd be very happy.
Yeah, it's probably about 6s. I mean, the thing you could maybe throw in is the Saints as a qualifying, err on the side of slightly tougher, but this just because they're trending in a slightly better direction. But Philly and Atlanta, I mean, not that Atlanta's this obstacle that is insurmountable, but that they are better than what we saw, I think, last week. And by week 17, they're going to be grinding, trying to secure they'll have the division, odds are, but still playoff seeding, all that stuff. Steve Hale, what's up, bro? Generous super chat. So good to see you. He says, another big Semper Fi to everyone out there. So awesome to see Payton opening up the playbook and watching Nix drop dimes 20, 30 yards down the field. Nix said, give me the keys to the Pinto and I'll drive it like a Lambo. Very, very nice. You're a poet. You're a poet, Steve.
I love that. And it certainly looked like a Lamborghini, like the premium model, the most expensive model you can get. That's how the Broncos offense was clicking last Sunday. So God willing, Steve, on Sunday in Vegas, he can keep it going and be driving pretty fast, figuratively speaking.
But dude, yeah, Nix, he was taking what the defense was giving him last week against the Falcons. As Justin Simmons said post-game, they were taking away the deep. And so, it was the old Peyton Manning maxim, you can't go broke taking a profit. But Bo Nix was highly accurate, and he had 2 what I would call big boy throws in that game where it kind of makes you go, whoa. One was, of course, that kind of threading the needle, put some mustard on it, and be accurate to Devon Vele down the middle. And then also on that scramble, Zach, where he's going right, and he kind of lofts it back shoulder to Cortland Sutton, who nice heads up play by both the passer and the receiver on that. And those were like, okay, see, legit, that this is what we're talking about. And then otherwise, Zach, he did what a proficient, good quarterback does against a defense like that. They're going to give you the underneath. You're going to take it all day long and matriculate the ball downfield.
I thought he also had an impressive throw on the opening drive. I believe it was to Cortland Sutton on the left sideline. Just the ball placement was good. The timing is getting better, and you could just see the progress.
Okay, guys, tonight we have to be a little bit tight on our timing. I have to be out of here at about 1:45. So let's do our head-to-heads. Shout out to Patrick, Aloha Priest, and Scott. Definitely hoping for the sit back and sip game. He's our coffee. He's our coffee expert in paradise, Patrick. Awesome. And we agree with you 100%. So let's do the head-to-head here. Let me get it queued up. Broncos, Raiders. Everybody knows the drill. Green signifies a top 10 ranking. Red, bottom 10. The Broncos sit at 6-5. Raiders 2-8. The Broncos have officially busted even in the turnover margin at 0. That's middle of the pack. Whereas the poor Raiders, man, they're minus 15. They're dead last in the league in turnover margin. That means they've given the ball away 15 times more than they've taken it. Meanwhile, time of possession, Broncos are middle of the pack, whereas the Raiders are a bottom 10 team in that regard. Offensively, it's kind of ugly. Let's start with the Raiders. They're 30th ranked in yards. They're 24th in points. They're dead last in rushing. Kind of a mistake, I think, Zach, to let Josh Jacobs hit the bricks. They're middle of the pack in passing. They've been picked off 11 times. That's a red statistic. They've lost 9 fumbles. Only one team has lost more than the Raiders. 20 total giveaways. Only one team is worse. And they've allowed 33 sacks, which ties them for 27th in the league. So what is that? 6th most in the NFL. Their third down percentage, they can't stay on the field. It's putrid. And then in the red zone, they're okay. All right, middle of the pack. Meanwhile, the Broncos, these statistics in a vacuum, off the cuff, you look at them, you go, well, nothing to write home about. But they are climbing precipitously out of that first quarter where Bo Nix was figuring things out and Sean Payton was steadily giving him a little more rope, a little more slack. 23rd in yards, 20th in points. That's going to move. That's going to increase as the season marches on. They are averaging, the Broncos, 116 yards per game. That's 20th. Passing, this is going to continue to improve with Bo Nix. They're currently 25th, so that's a red statistic. Just under 200 yards per game. That will climb. 6 interceptions puts them barely outside the top 10 in fewest. 7 fumbles lost, though, Zach. This is a concern. This has been one of the big problems this season anyway, relative to discipline and execution. That ties them at 25th. 13 total giveaways, but still, this kid does not get sacked. 18 sacks on the season, tied for the 5th fewest. They're improving on third down to 37%. Still nowhere good enough, Zach, but improving. And then they are now a top 10 red zone offense. Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's what jumped out to me about Denver. A few weeks ago, they were near the bottom in the NFL in third down, like 27th or 29th, and they've been slowly every week improving that number. I'd like to see it in the mid-40s, but, c'est la vie. They're still getting better in other areas. When I look at the Raiders, though, and all that red, 27th in sacks, 31st in giveaways, 31st in fumbles, 25th in interceptions. It definitely sounds like a Gardner Minshew quarterback team to me. So this, just like in the previous matchup, it shouldn't be that tough for the Broncos defense to contain the Vegas offense. On the flip side, as long as you can block Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins up front, that Raiders D is, we'll see in a second, they're pretty trash.
So let's take a look at it. And keep in mind, you brought up the boogeyman, Max Crosby, who went from, is he even going to play, to, what was it, 2 sacks on Nix? I mean, again, let's look. Nix has only been sacked all year 18 times. 2 of them, Max Crosby. So we look at this Raiders defense. They're 15th in yards. They are 29th in points, relinquishing, we'll call it 29 a game. They're 15th in rushing, 11th against the pass. They only have 5 picks, 0. They have not fallen on a singular fumble, Zach, this season. That's dead last. Takeaways, total of 5. That's dead last. Sacks, they only have 19, which puts them in the bottom 5 or 6. Third down defense, they're middle of the pack, and they really suck in the red zone. Then you look at the Broncos defense, 3rd in yards, 1st in yards per play, 3rd in points, 6th in rushing, 7th in passing. 8 picks puts them just outside the top 10. 5 fumble recoveries, that puts them middle of the pack. 13 total takeaways, just outside the top 10. And they have 39 sacks, Zach, which puts them in the pole position. They are number 1 in the league now in sacks. They've been at 2 for since 2 months. 8 weeks probably. They've been the 2nd-ranked defense in sacks. They are now number 1. Third down defense, middle of the pack. They could do better there. And then, Zach, red zone, tied for 3rd. The Broncos defense is a thing.
I don't know what it is about third downs on both sides of the ball that's kind of lagging behind, but the rest of the green, we love to see it, Chad, don't we? And on the Raiders side, how do you have 0 fumble recoveries after 10 games? How do you only have 5 takeaways? They're averaging half a takeaway a game. They don't do anything right on defense, and if you can just scheme Max Crosby away from Bo Nix, this could be another explosive type effort from the Broncos offense.
Special teams, the Raiders are doing well in the punting game, 1st in gross, 6th in net. And they're doing well to limit kick return yardage. Meanwhile, they're dead last in return yardage and punts, and they're not dead last, they're bottom 10 in punt return average, and then their punt coverage is also bottom 10. Then you look at the Broncos, the punting, it has taken a nosedive in, I'll say, the last quarter of the season. So let's say since like New Orleans, Zach, Riley Dixon has really struggled. A lot of shanks. The coverage hasn't been that great, but mainly it's the punting. Meanwhile, Marvin Mims, 13.3 on punt return. That's 6th in the NFL. We're doing good to cover punts for the most part in terms of production, ranking 10th. We're just outside the top 10 in our kick return average. And then we're 5th in covering kicks. And then our field goal percentage, 86, whereas, Zach, the Raiders are at 90%. Then you look at penalties. Broncos still getting more flags thrown between their opponents and themselves than maybe anyone. I don't know that for sure, but they're up there.
Yeah, I want to take a mental screenshot of the special teams rankings because this is the second game after Michael Westhoff resigned due to health issues, and he's one of the best to ever do it on that side of the ball. So, we were praising Riley Dixon. At least I was eating crow on him, and now he's going back to the old Riley Dixon. And for field goals, if it wasn't for that KC game, Chad, it would be a higher percentage, as it was before that.
Yeah, it'd be basically 6s with Raiders, but he had that missed 60-yarder and then the blocked one at the end. And just real quick, our boy Will Lutz, that is, let's take a quick look here at some statistical individual head-to-heads. Like Broncos leader in tackles still is Brandon Jones at 74. He's going to easily, Zach, eclipse triple digits. I'd like to see Barton get there since he started since the season began, basically. Moss, though, look at that. One of your boundary corners is second in tackling. That is just awesome, dude. You look at sacks. Crosby has 6.5. Nick Bonito, he's tied for second in the NFL with 9. Cooper at 6.5. So our second best sack artist is tied with the Raiders' best guy. That's cool. Surtain has 3 picks. Morig has 2. All right. Points. All right. Let's look at receiving yards. Sutton, this number is climbing. The last 4 games, he has been basically since after the New Orleans game, he's been a force to be reckoned with. He's definitely got 1,000 yards within striking distance. If Bo Nix, if like we think that momentum continues, I like Sutton's odds of getting over 1,000 this year, even if it's just barely. But look at this rookie tight end out of Georgia, dude. Sean Payton yesterday once again gushed about Brock Bowers. I mean, he's setting records and whatnot for rookie tight ends, 706 receiving yards. He's probably going to get over 1,000 quite easily. Pretty impressive. Rush yards, Pookie's climbing a little bit. I predict he kind of finishes somewhere around 800 rush yards, which is, it's okay. It's not exactly what you want it to be. But Nix, Zach, still the second leading rusher on the team. Meanwhile, Raiders, Madison at 320. I mean, that shows you, look at that rushing production. I mean, it's nary, it's not much to speak of. And then passing yardage, this is also climbing for Bo. 2,275 on the season to Minshew's 1,783, Zach.
If we go down to interceptions, it stood out to me that the PS2 has as many as 3 Raiders combined. 3 players are 1 interception, so they don't really do any. They don't take the ball away at all. Their secondary is for show only. You brought up Brock Bowers. He's an incredible player. I feel like after what Sean Payton said, Chad, if they didn't need Bo Nix, it would have been Bowers at 12, and he would have been great for whoever was under center. Hopefully this offseason they can get Bo Nix his own Brock Bowers.
The Triple C, Colby saying Raider week, let's go. Start stacking wins. 2, 4, 6. This is how it starts. Amen to that, dude. I don't math well, but I'm picking up what you're putting down, my friend. Guys, we got to start winding it down here. The Ronk checking in to say great show tonight. Chad and Zach on the MHH podcast. Go Bo Broncos. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the stars and the support as always. Let me just hit a few people here. Rodney, the Giants D lineman, Dexter Lawrence was leading them in sacks, but now we're first. Yeah, I think he's still the season leader. Hold on. Let me double check this. Sack leaders. Where to go? I just had it up. Sacks. No. I don't need tackles. I'll find it. But anyway, Nick Bonito, Zach, he's at number 2 right now. And the Broncos just paid Jonathan Cooper. Now you're going, well, you've got Bonito under contract 1 more year, but sometime in the next 365, you're probably going to have to pay that man, and it's going to be big.
Yeah, we'll worry about it then. I'm just enjoying watching the Broncos edge rushers get after the quarterback, and not enough people talks about who's doing the dirty work for Bonito and Cooper.
That's right. Sorry. Thank you, Scott. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Hendrickson at 11.5 is the leader. My bad.
Shout out Zach Allen, shout out JFM, and shout out Malcolm Roach. They have completely transformed the Broncos D-line. And Chad, if Zach Allen doesn't make a Pro Bowl at the very minimum, we should riot. It'd be ridiculous.
PFF still doing everything it can to ensure that doesn't happen. But again, the thing to remember, and yes, Mike, let them hate, baby. The thing to remember is, rising tide lifts all ships, right? Raises all the boats. And when the team is relevant and doing well, all of a sudden those individual performances that might get overlooked or even swept under the rug, they come to the fore. Especially, and it's not just Zach because of the fan voting segment for the Pro Bowl, but I'm sorry, team wins and team outlook and how good a team is, it does affect coaches and players who vote when you get to the all-pro teams or whatnot. It affects people. So let's hope the Broncos continue to win, and that will increase the odds of guys like possibly, first of all, Zach Allen, Pat Surtain. Brandon Jones is going to be, in my opinion, a guy to consider. Possibly Nick Bonito. At this rate, definitely Nick Bonito. But because it's the Broncos, I have to throw that in there. Possibly. Even on offense, Cortland Sutton, if they continue to win and he gets to that 1,000-yard mark, possibly even Bo Nix. If he continues at this rate, Garrett Bolles is a possibility. Quinn Miners is a possibility. But you need that team success to really grease those wheels. Zeus, love you, bro. Thank you for checking in. He says, hi, all. Sending this from 38,000 feet. Super excited about the steady improvement each game. Raider week. Let's go. You want to talk about miles high? That's where Zeus is right now. And how fitting that is, Zach. He is Zeus after all.
That's right. Safe travels, Stu. Hope you have a good flight. Appreciate you popping in and interacting with us as you want to do. Love you, bro. Appreciate it.
You are the man, Zeus. Safe travels, big dog. All right, we have a few messages for you. Then we're going to dip on out of here.
I cannot believe it's been 41 minutes going on 42. Thank you guys for another tremendous installment, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on IG at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, please, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Amen to that. A mile-high salute and a special shout-out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, helping us keep the lights on, like the Papa Bear David McElrath, like Sam Bam, like the Ronk, Elias, Proud Zenial, Phil McLaughlin, George Fox, David Youngkin, The Duchess, Michaela Parker, Steve Hale, Semper Fi, Big Dog, Colby C. Collier, the Triple C, Zeus McPeak. I'm not sure if the comment from Marcus was stars on Facebook, but either way, he's a super supporter over there traditionally. So shouts to you as well. And if I missed anybody, forgive me. It's a fast-moving conversation tonight, but we try to mark each and every one a hard-earned dollar. You guys work your butts off to make a buck, and even throwing down $1 for MHH to us, we see that as a great, as an immense, caring sacrifice, and we really appreciate it. It helps us keep the lights on. It's not just something we say. So love you guys. Can't wait to see you on Sunday for the gut reaction, what I expect to be a victorious gut reaction. Broncos getting to sit 7-5 on the season.
We're going to break out the brooms on Sunday, I feel like, Chad. But have a great start to your weekend. We'll see you for the gut reaction. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.